Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar on furniture trends to keep events safe, brought to you by CORT Events and NACE. My name is Amanda Sharp and I'm the Manager of Chapter and Partner Relations at NACE National. We welcome your questions today. You can submit them through the questions or chat panel of this GoToWebinar. You can receive 1 CPCE credit for attending today's webinar. For more information, please visit nace.net/CPCE. We are recording today's presentation. You will be able to access it in past recordings by logging into NACE's website and checking out the resource library. Please reach out if you have any issues accessing this recording. Our speaker today is Kevin Dana. Kevin is the Executive Director of Merchandising and Product Development for CORT Events. He's responsible for researching and identifying world and national furniture and design trends, then applying them to CORT's merchandising and product development strategy. In his 19-year tenure at CORT, he's previously led the marketing strategy and developed proprietary brands such as the Endless Seating Collection. Kevin has served on the Foundation of NACE trustee and was named the 2013 Marketing Professional of the Year by Event Solutions magazine. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm excited to be here to kind of review some of the trends that are happening right now in this new era. I wanted to say, we're going to talk about a lot of things and then, focus on some of the design trends, not just for COVID trends, but also for fashion as well. But I did want to say, things are changing constantly, as we know. It seems like, every day we learn something new. So, I will try to be as current as possible with what we know, and we will take questions after the immediate design for distancing part of the program, and then I'll talk about, kind of fashion and color trends as well. So, CORT has been a long-term partner of NACE, and we appreciate this opportunity to support NACE and its members. So without further ado, I'll jump in. I wanted to talk about some general guidelines and practices for this new era that we're in. I think in the immediate term, we know that events and meetings are going to be smaller, and it's really going to depend on the jurisdiction where those events are being held. And as we know, it is also going to differ in various parts of the country. So, that's kind of the first thing, is really paying attention to what's going on in that local market. And it is changing. So I know it makes it difficult to plan an event at this point. But, I think we just need to be flexible and nimble. But we know that we're going to have fewer attendees. And I think then really we have to think about the purpose of an event and really curating the guest list, have an intention for why we're having an event. And then the things we're going to talk about are all those things that we need to communicate in advance and during the event that we're doing to promote the health and safety of the attendees. So, we do believe venues are going to be limited, quite limited, to 25–50% capacity. One of the guidelines that we've been using is, a much smaller footprint, like almost 50 square feet per person. And I'm going to review that in a minute, but definitely the capacities are going to be much more limited. I think communicating in advance in an event is extremely important about, how an event is going to be run and about the things that are going to be done at the event to make sure that we're taking our attendees' health and safety into account. So these things that you're seeing here are pretty much the common sense things that we all know at this point, but I do think that masks and/or face covering are absolutely going to be required at any event that's happening in the near future before there is some sort of a vaccine. Signage is going to be very important, and I want to talk about that as well. And also extra staffing. I think, events are going to be a little bit more costly, and that's why we really do have to think about, who really needs to be there and why they're there, because it is going to cost a little more to have extra staff there to make sure that we are providing that sense of health and safety, and also for the sanitation and disinfectant. So Next thing, and I really like this idea of a wellness greeter or a wellness manager and coordinators. So as soon as an attendee gets to an event, having someone there that can communicate the new experience and how things are going to be run, I think will help set people's mind at ease and answer questions about, health and safety. They can be easily identified with some sort of colored shirt or a uniform. I recommend green because that's the color of health and wellness. And I do think that you need more than one of those people scattered around any event to just help answer questions and make sure that everyone is abiding by the distancing rules and to set their minds at ease. Wellness checkpoints, I think some version of this is also going to be important, whether you have temperature checks or you do thermal scanning, a little bit of both. I think that we do have to plan for the increased risk, whether that's insurance, certainly a triage plan if somebody does show symptoms while at a program. Signage and decals. So I know we don't want to overly sign our events because it could end up looking like just billboards everywhere. But things that are more subtle, like floor decals, which we're all now used to seeing, I think will help to wayfind and help attendees, kind of figure out where they're supposed to be and where they're supposed to stand. And you can see in this particular wellness station, the use of dividers, clear dividers for service staff behind a counter, and then also to help with wayfinding and create separation as well. And I wanted to mention, we know outdoor spaces are going to become more and more important, and I know that's not going to be possible in certain markets at certain times of the year, but I know at CORT, we've started to do and service some events, and a lot of them are outdoors, where it's much easier to create that sense of health and safety in that environment, or possibly in a tent. For designing a social event, I mentioned this earlier, more square footage. So we think about 10 attendees for every 500 square feet, and that's a lot of space. But that also accounts for having extra staff, service staff. I don't think you'd want to go less than one attendee for every 30 square feet. But when taking into consideration health, the staff, the service staff, and the wellness greeters, and anyone else you have besides attendees, to be safe, 10 attendees for every 500 square feet. And this is kind of an overall view that I'm going to kind of go into some of the details. But the 36 inches is the aura of space, and I love this. It's your own personal bubble. If every attendee thinks about this 36 inches as a circle around them is their aura of space that nobody should come into, then I think it helps people to think about maintaining that physical distancing when they're circulating or networking around a room. Moving to a few of the details for dining, because this is a NACE call, so I wanted to focus on food and beverage and how to set up for dining in this new era. And there's a couple of concepts I really like, and one of them is the dinner for one and or two concept that you see on the lower right-hand part of the screen. So the tables are kind of set up in a cabaret style, 30-inch tables, and they could be cafe or bar height. And then you would preset one bar stool or chair with each table. Now, we do know that some people are going to arrive with another person that may be in their bubble of safety. So I think it's important too to have some extra bar stools or chairs around so they could they can take one of those chairs and move it to that table so they don't have to sit by themselves if they arrived with somebody else that they trust. But this is kind of a cabaret style setup. So even though you would be sitting with one or two people, you're still in an environment where you can all see each other, you can talk to each other, you could network, but still maintaining that physical distance. And I like the concept of physical distancing, but still having social connection. And I think everything we're going to talk about is we want to make sure, because when people go to an event, they are going for the social connection. So we're kind of threading the needle here by maintaining distance and also promoting social connection. So the second way to style and design would be a longer table, like a 6-foot rectangular table that you see there, and with one attendee on either side of that table with the distance. So there's another way you could get some distance without, and sitting at the same table without making it seem like you're alone at an event. There's a third way that I've also seen where you can create very long tables and place someone on either side of the table spaced at 6-foot distances too. So there's a lot of creative ways to do this. I've also seen where the space plans where there's a round, an 8-foot round, and you possibly have 2 or 3 people at points on a triangle. I think that could work as well. It becomes a little more difficult when people are moving around, because we want to make sure that you have 12-foot aisles between seating vignettes. Otherwise, you have to have one-way flow of traffic, because you cannot maintain two-way traffic and distancing unless you've got at least 12 feet of space between all of your seating groupings and between vignettes. So all of that can be reinforced with signage and floor decals to help people find their way. When it comes to seating, assigned seating or owned space is something I really like when we're talking about events and programs and meetings at this point. You know, pre-assigning a space for each attendee, so when they come to the space, they've already seen the event map and they know exactly on the seating chart where they're supposed to be. And, you know, their particular space may have a table, it may have a side table, or excuse me, a seat, a side table, and possibly a charging station. So that is their own space for the duration of the event. And when it comes to getting food, we can talk about the various ways that we can offer food and service, but I think having that space that is their own will make attendees feel a little safer that, you know, nobody else is going to utilize that space, and until it has been sanitized or cleaned. I really like the reservation system, you know, for food, you know, letting people know when it's their turn to approach a bar or a food station. So I'm showing here a few food station designs, large and small, could be food and or beverage. There's plenty of space, the use of stanchions, the use of floor decals. You're not seeing in this picture what I think is imperative is the glass, or excuse me, the acrylic bar and counter dividers, which CORT does now have. And so I would put one of those on each one of those bars. So if you did have a setup where you were inviting guests to go and approach the bar on a pre-scheduled or reservation system, this is how I would set that up. I know that there is, you know, the thought that, you know, guests should just remain seated, and maybe they would have servers come with boxed food, or, you know, pre-packaged food is another way to do that as well. But, you know, doing it this way makes it seem a little bit more like an event pre-COVID. So, you know, there is the ability to move around a little bit and to, you know, make it a little more social. You know, all the obvious things here, you know, the gloved and masked servers and staff, the use of the stanchions and signage to reinforce those parameters, and hand washing stations, I think, or signage encouraging attendees to wash their hands is also imperative, especially near trash cans. So if someone's throwing away their food, they know immediately then, oh, I need to wash my hands. You know, moving to more of the design for furnishings, I think for the immediate future, either very large seating groups like sectionals or large seating groups of ottomans is a way to create design with a lot of space for people to move around. And you can see those big ottoman configurations that we're offering now. And rather than put a please do not sit sign on some of those, a decal on some of those seats, I like the idea of using like individual seat table that would go over the seats where you don't want people to sit. So it's more of a visual cue without being in your face with signage. So, you know, just putting a seat table on those areas that would allow physical distancing and everybody to keep their 36-inch aura of personal space. You can also use red and green indicator cards if you have staff that's there to clean, disinfect, and sanitize furnishings between use, where you would just flip it up and upside down, you know, indicating whether it's been used and or sanitized. And then in the bottom left, you know, using very large sectionals, again, with the C tables that provide that visual cue for distancing, I think is a great way to set up an event and allow people to still, you know, be able to see each other and to talk and to network. Some more ideas for vignettes. You know, I mentioned earlier owned spaces or spaces where, you know, there's a seat with a corresponding table. We do believe at CORT that, you know, coffee tables or shared tables is going to be very difficult for the next foreseeable future. So I think when you're designing spaces, you need to think about individual side tables. Side tables are, you know, going to become very, very important, and a side table to go with each seat. CORT has introduced some dividers that are not only freestanding, but dividers that will go over the middle of a sofa or love seat. So that's another way to provide some divider distance if you're going to use a sofa or a love seat. But, you know, accent chairs and individual seats that are properly spaced, I think is an easier way to go about that. I want to, you know, we talked health and wellness is going to be very, very important. And again, providing those cues. And I think using organic dividers like greenery and hedges, drape softens a room, you know, to help provide a softer look, a sense of health and well-being, but then to also use for wayfinding. It's a little bit softer than like plexiglass or acrylic, but still allows you to create wayfinding for guests as they move through a design or you know, the event or the meeting. And then here is kind of an overall 3D representation of what that event might look like. And, you know, there is a lot of space, as you can see, you know, space that we would normally not have had in an event. You know, we changed a lot of the geometry, so people aren't sitting directly across from each other, that they're a little bit more on a diagonal and certainly farther away. But there's a lot of room to move around and for people to move around with two-way traffic without while still maintaining that physical distance. So I think this is, you know, kind of the way of the future for the next little while when we're designing social events and you know, events where there is food and beverage. We definitely want to facilitate engagement and promote social connection. And I do think it is possible if you're taking all these precautions, communicating in advance, and then you have plenty of staff on site to guide, direct, and provide that sense of well-being. I'm going to move on and talk about trends because I do think, you know, trends in fashion is still going to be important, and creating unique spaces is important. But before I move forward, are there any questions about distance design and how to think about designing spaces that are safer and make people feel comfortable?
We don't have any right now, but if anybody wants to ask something, if they could put it in the question box. Okay,
and I can move forward and we can talk about trends, and it might generate some further questions. When, you know, at CORT, we attend furniture markets all over the US and the world markets. And the last world market I went to, I got it in right under the wire. We went to Cologne in January. And so many of the photos that you're seeing are from some of the last furniture markets to take place. And these are the objectives that we look for when we're going to a furniture market. And really, it's trying to translate those trends, the overall trends in furnishing and design for our industry. So events, meetings, and trade shows. And then finally, some things we see don't translate very well to what we're doing. Like I would say that pink couch there, you know, that's a little bit not like something you would see at an event. So not everything translates is my point. We are definitely distinguishing fads from trends. The three main overall style trends in the world right now are Mediterranean craft, which we would term bohemian chic or possibly urban rustic in the US. And that's really, you know, mixing and matching lots of different looks together, textural overload, you know, very unique, very relaxed. I think some of this plays in the new era that we're in, and I'll talk about that. The second one is new Nordic or Danish modern trends, more simple, but using luxurious fabrics and design details, and then lots of, you know, complementary woods and or marble and hard surfaces that are natural as well. And then finally, Art Deco and retro modern, which is a very opulent style from the early 20th century. And I would say in the US right now, Art Deco and retro modern are the primary style trends that we're seeing. Lots of shine, lots of luxury. It's very romantic, curvy. And I think that, you know, that plays very well into a lot of the events that we're doing. First of all, Mediterranean craft, you see the textural overload, a lot of accessories, a lot going on here. I think in the new era of COVID, this has to be pared down a little bit. So we won't, I don't think, be seeing so much of this, but a lot of the design trends like fringe and knotting and prints and grasses, natural materials, that plays very well into this era that we're in because it creates that sense of warmth and health and wellness. So the translation of this for the US, I think, is the more bohemian chic. You can see it's a little more pared down, but still, you know, the use of plants, the textures, lots of warm colors. It definitely creates that relaxed but sophisticated look. And it does incorporate mid-century, which was a design trend that's been trending for a while, which now I feel like is more of a staple in design, and those Danish modern elements that are very eclectic but refined. So, you know, some silhouettes here from Danish modern. So, you know, you can kind of recognize it when you see it. Iconic shapes, lots of round edges, organic forms, simple textiles, but very functional. And I only show here accent chairs because, as I mentioned earlier, this era that we're in for designing events, I think we have to really focus again on the individual chair rather than so much for love seats and sofas. That being said, we know that some people are going to arrive in an event with someone else in their social bubble, and they're happy to sit together on a sofa or love seat. So we're kind of having to do both. So that's New Nordic, Danish modern, and then Art Deco, which is a little more feminine. Lots of curvy silhouettes, it's romantic, lots of eclecticism and layering here as well, but also the use of pattern and shape that can be a little more dramatic and sophisticated. And that's more what I would term retro modernism, where you see this pushed a little further, you know, taking a little more chances with pattern and juxtaposing different elements and different colors. So, you know, this is something that I think it provides the ability to design and create something that is more unique for your clients. Color story. I'm actually going to go through these, so I'm not going to spend time on this, but the major trend in color right now is green. And I'll talk about why that's good right now in this era of COVID. There's the color palette. You can see that colors right now are warm. They have a lot of dark undertones in them. They are a little bit more organic in feel, and that does play into this, you know, trying to create a sense of warmth in our design. Green. So green in the last I was in Paris last September, seems like forever now, and in Cologne in January, green was the predominant trending color. So in the US, we've seen blue and gray for the past few years. Those are still important, but green is the new color story that is going to be most important as we move forward in the next couple of years. And again, that plays into the health and wellness idea because, you know, green creates that that calm feel, and it does communicate, a sense of well-being. Blues, still going to be hot. We still see blues in many different shades, but they were definitely waning. Not as important, but green really is going to become the new blue. And then moving in more to the grays, we still saw a lot of gray in the furniture markets. And I think that gray is becoming like what, black and white, just kind of a staple. So black, white, gray, blue seem to be the new neutrals, along with the textured oatmeals. These are kind of a color that goes with almost everything, and especially all those organic shades that you saw earlier on the color story. Gold and ochre. In the US, yellows and oranges have always been a harder sell, especially I know for us at events. At CORT, we always offer a lot of different colors, and it seems like customers on events usually come back to black and white and gray. But we are seeing now more of this ochre being accepted. I think as our customers get younger and they want to take more chances, the ochre is out there. Same thing with the oranges. I think yellow is actually a little more important right now, but those oranges and deep rust and spice tones are also trending. The red hues, red seems to kind of always be there. It kind of waned for a while. It's definitely coming back, everything from the mauves and the pinks to more of the bright reds and the cranberries. And then browns. Browns have kind of been bubbling out there and strengthening for a while. The camel tones, some of those lighter browns are out there, and they also pair very well with all those organic colors that we're seeing. Definitely seeing black becoming more important. It was really out for a while, but now black on everything from furniture frames and the metals to you're starting to see it on the textiles, black vinyls and leather and velvets and fabrics. Design attributes. So marble, I wanted to mention marble because it's been trending for 5 or 6 years now. It's going to continue to trend. It's a natural material, but we're definitely seeing more dramatic marbling, where you have more variegated looks, and not so subtle on the marbling. So marbling will and also be in some other colors as well, not just the grays. Side tables, I mentioned that earlier. Very, very important trend before COVID, even more important now. Like I said earlier, if you're going to design an event with a seat, an accent chair, you really need to put a seat table or a side table next to it so they have that sense of owned space. And then some of the ways that we have translated trends, the images I'm showing you are pre-COVID, obviously. They are not distance designs, but you can get the picture. This is a very representative shot of the Art Deco style with our green endless, which we've had in our collection for a long time, but we've updated it with some new rounded seats, with the velvet, with the channel stitching. So it definitely now represents that Art Deco trend. And it's a lot more luxurious. And again, using these big, large sectionals for distance seating is the way to go because it's much easier than to put a seat table over those seats that you're not using, but still create that look of a large sectional. You can see those ochre chairs we introduced, which have been really popular. So I think yellow is becoming more accepted in our design. We still offer endless in white. As we know, white for events and trade shows and meetings is still and always is going to be important, even though it's not important really in the design and trending areas of furnishings. In our industry, white's important because it's that clean palette. A large assortment of accent chairs. So, again, individual seating with a table. So attendees can feel like they have their own space where they can create that 36 inches of aura of space around them. I mentioned earlier the ottomans. We offer that in a lot of different fashion colors, so you can create small or large configurations. And so I was asked on a webinar just yesterday because we know that events are going to become more costly in many ways, and we may need more furnishings, and we're going to need more staffing, and we have fewer people in a venue. So how do you designed to be more cost effective. And one way you can do it is to use ottomans. They are cost effective. You can use an ottoman and a C table and create individual spaces that are less expensive for renting than an accent chair or a sofa or a love seat. And then, division of space, boxwood hedges, which we've had for years. We've added a few more planter dividers, to help again with wayfinding, but not necessarily signage. So, depending on how you design them, you can, guide and direct the flow of traffic without having to have a sign everywhere. Some of the examples of the design, our Montreal collection is, there's a great example of Danish modern. The CAPRI, this is an outdoor collection, indoor, outdoor. It's sunbrella fabric. You see it in that, beautiful mossy green. Outdoor events continue to be important. So, designing for outdoor events, everything there you see can go outdoors. So you can create that sense of comfort and get almost an indoor look and still have the furnishings be available for use outdoors. There's an indoor look with the same sofa. Valencia, again, there's that deep spice, rust tones, a little more, of those 70s colors juxtaposed with the woods and the metals. It feels warm, it feels inviting, and you can see that C table used over one side of the love seat. So, it is an indication that only one person would be able to sit there. Chandler, so a lot of different styles happening here. It's a mid-century silhouette with an Art Deco look with the channel stitching. You've got the marble and the metal, bringing the outdoors in with the greenery. A lot of different things happening, but they all come together in kind of that bohemian chic look. And I think this represents bohemian chic perfectly because you get those warm tones. You're using all these different elements together to create something that is unique and exciting for your clients. And then lastly, again, represents mid-century modern plus Art Deco plus bohemian chic. It kind of all goes together. So I would say when it comes to design right now, taking chances is going to create more unique spaces, and don't be afraid to use color right now, especially a lot of those warm or vibrant tones, help create that sense of well-being. And then finally, the Constellation, this is a great whimsical piece. Using those blues, this very much represents an Art Deco look, very retro modern. And then pushed for a black and white. So the absence of color is also dramatic. And we are seeing a lot of black and white designs come back. And in my mind, they kind of never go out. So you can never go wrong with just using black and white. It's always modern. It's always cool. And there's a lot going on there, but it definitely is a warm and inviting space that you would want to hang out in. And that's the end of the design portion. So, we kind of started with, how do we design for an event versus now, what are the trends happening in color and style? So I'm open for questions if there is any right now.
Yes, we do. We have, and these are really from, a couple of these are from the first part. So
okay.
There's one from two different people, but they kind of go together. How is
Okay.
CORT planning to sanitize furniture before and after each event? And does someone need to continuously disinfect?
Couple of great questions. I'll take the first one. So I took those slides out of here because it's kind of an eye chart. We have this flow chart about how furnishings are handled and disinfected and cleaned. So to summarize, CORT uses an Ecolab product approved by the EPA and also the CDC for cleansing and disinfecting. And so our process is, when we pick up an event, our team is masked and gloved, obviously. It goes onto our trucks, it comes into the warehouse, it is segregated until it is cleaned and disinfected with this Ecolab product, and then sprayed, and then it sits for a while, at least 15 minutes, so the product dries, and then we bag it, and then we put a sticker on it that says CORT Clean and Certified sticker. And then it goes on our shelves. So we know that when we are loading an event, everything is ready to go. It's event ready. It's already been disinfected when it arrives onto an event by our team, which is masked and also gloved. Before an event, it is placed. And then when our client tells us it's okay to take the plastic off, we would do it. We may leave it on and let the client take it off when they're comfortable, because that can be an issue. You know, if it's unwrapped too soon, you don't know if somebody has sit on it or used it. So that's really going to be up to the client then. And then at the event, you know, that's really when it becomes incumbent on the event planner or the event company to make sure that there is somebody there that can disinfect it. And there are sprays that we use, disinfectant sprays that you can just spray over upholstery. And then that will disinfect it. Obviously, hard surfaces, you know, a bleach-based cleaner. I saw where Pine Sol has now been approved. So I think that's where, you know, you have to think about the type of event you're going to have. Is it type of event where somebody's going to have an owned assigned space, and you know that that's where they're going to sit. You know, they may move around a room, but nobody else is supposed to be sitting or using that space. If you don't have that type of event, you really do have to have extra staff on hand to clean and sanitize in between uses of furniture. So I think I got the full cycle there of how we handle product and disinfect, but you know, the challenge is at an event, if somebody's used it, then what do you do? And I think you do have to have enough staff there with the right cleaners to be able to clean it and disinfect it again for another use. I do think it's possible to do. It is possible.
So do you have a recommendation or a suggestion on a spray that's okay for upholstery?
We use an Ecolab product, and it's actually a proprietary blend that we have contracted as CORT overall, is a pretty large company. But I know that there are sprays out there that you can spray and fog over upholstery. You know, Clorox has one, you know, the electrostatic foggers, that's exactly what that is. It's a disinfectant spray. So I know they are out there. You know, Clorox does make one, a fogger. And I know that even on the trade show side, there's a lot of talk about, you know, at a trade show, you know, having timed entrance and clearing out the hall for a certain period of time while they go through with those electrostatic foggers and hit all of the surfaces. So I think if somebody's interested in that, I would check out the electrostatic foggers of the Clorox products that are out there.
Okay, so we have a couple more. We will soon be able to host 30% capacity at our venue. We are mainly a meeting venue and don't normally host social events. My manager wants to know what the max capacity will be we can host when this is 30% phase rolls out. Sorry. However, I'm not exactly sure what to tell her because I don't think it's black and white. Won't it depend on what the room setup's going to be, whether the client wants theater, classroom rounds, hollow square, etc. Since we have to give 6 feet in social distancing space for our meeting setups, what is your tip on how to calculate this? My manager is thinking that if we could host 150 people at rounds normally, then 30% of that would be 45 people. Is it that simple?
It could be, not knowing the exact size of the space, but I can tell you, I was recommending, you know, 50 square feet for each person, but that's taking into consideration a social event where there may be, you know, bartenders, there might be food servers, there might be wellness greeters, there might, you know, there's staff there, more staff, you know, at an event or a meeting where there's not, there may not be food service. I would say 1 for every 30 square feet. So, you know, it's kind of a math equation if you just take the space where you've got your meeting space and think of it one person for every 30 square feet. That should be more than enough. But, you know, I'm sorry, I didn't show any of our meeting designs, but we do have those as well. I definitely think you've got to put, you know, at least 6 feet between every chair to the side and front and back. And again, you want to have that side table next to your meeting chair for each individual, you know, owned space. So 1 person for every 30 square feet. And I would just take that space that is the space where the attendees will be, in a theater style or, in a table setting. So hopefully I answered that question. One person every 30 square feet is a really good guide for meetings. But again, not taking into consideration the other staff that's going to be there. So just use the space where you have the furniture laid out.
Awesome. Okay. What are your thoughts on design style for wedding ceremonies?
Wow. I really like the bohemian chic now. I mean, we know that, the rustic design trend has played itself out, and really the bohemian chic is kind of that more curated, refined, sophisticated extension of where we've evolved to. Or if you weren't going to go with the bohemian chic, there are a lot of brides, that's not really their style, not that eclectic kind of look. I would definitely go Art Deco. I would go Art Deco, and I think greens for weddings right now, because greens are trending as a color and we're trending, and like I said, they are the color of health and wellness. And so I think what a great color to use at a wedding to help your guests feel at ease. And green and white together, a green and white wedding, I think would be just gorgeous. But that's playing on the trends in color and style. So Art Deco or bohemian chic.
And this is the same person. What about setup for wedding ceremonies after COVID-19? Thoughts?
Receptions.
About that?
Yeah. Boy, I mean, I would definitely, it's easy to say, oh, do it outdoors, but that's not always going to work. I would do tents without, with at least 3 sides open. I don't know about dance floors. I don't think about dancing. I think that's kind of going to be a little bit difficult right now. But I would use, if you don't have an outdoor space, try to use a tent, with lots of heaters. It's going to be difficult indoors. I mean, people want to socialize and they want to, let's face it, drink and have a good time. But as we know, bars, for that reason, people get too relaxed. So I think probably limit the cocktails if you are going to do one inside, and it needs to be really small. I mean, again, using the guidelines for different local jurisdictions. And look, I mean, I've been invited to a wedding reception already, and I don't know if I'm going to go. So I think everybody's comfort level, based on how that event is going to be handled, is going to be different. So it's tough. It's going to be tough, but I think smaller events, with lots of space is the only way to hold them.
Awesome. So I saved this one for last just because she said, can we see the stellar constellation slide again, second to the last?
Oh, sure. So the black and white. Yeah, I really love the black and white here because it is so, stark and modern, but like I said, it is inviting, definitely, with a rug, it makes it more inviting. And then, if you wanted to do it with the blue, the color, also very Art Deco here as well. So it's such a fun sofa.
It is, it's beautiful.
And we do have, I wanted to mention again, and I didn't put those slides in here because I wanted to focus on design, but CORT does have some new dividers. We already have the freestanding acrylic dividers, and we have the bar and counter dividers. And then we have one that's more of a flagpole design that is on its way. It'll be available in November, that will adjust and fit like a flagpole over the center of a sofa or love seat to provide some division. It can also adjust up to a cafe height round table or up to a bar table. So it's pretty versatile. And that's something that will be available in November, because I honestly don't think we're going to be thinking about this for at least another year. I mean, people are not going to be 100% comfortable for a while. So the more we can do to provide that sense of safety, well-being, and really, communicate what we've done to make people feel comfortable, the better off and more successful our events are going to be.
Absolutely. That is all the questions I have, unless somebody wants to quickly type something in.
That's great.
So, Amanda, do you have any anything?
No, I don't. This is great information. I think everyone's really trying to figure out how to, place furniture at an event right now, especially with the changes in their local, their government restrictions. So this is fantastic. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, we're all kind of finding our way through this, but we are seeing events come back a little bit. So smaller events, using a lot of these concepts, for design, communication in advance, and I didn't really mention it, but using technology, using, the mobile devices to communicate, the lay of the land in advance. And then while you're at the event, as well, using those for, food reservations, when to approach the bar, to communicate what's going on and what's next in an event. And if you are going to do a social event, certainly, and you're going to have somebody speaking, socially or physically distant stage setups are pretty easy to do, but you want to make sure that you've got plenty of monitors around a room so people aren't congregating in one place to listen to somebody. So something else to think about.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin, so much. We appreciate everything. We've learned a lot today.
Great. Well, good luck, everybody, and stay safe. We really appreciate the opportunity. So.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.